series. Shall I start?
Yeah, you can start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Professor Sthaneshwar Timalsna obtained his master's degree in 1991 from Sampurnananda University in Varanasi, India, and taught for several years at Nepal Sanskrit University in Kathmandu. He completed his PhD from Martin Luther King University in Halle, Germany, with a focus on the history of philosophy Advaita. His dissertation is published under the title Seeing in Appearance. Before joining the San Diego State University in 2005, Timalsina had taught in the University of California in Santa Barbara and in San Luis. His areas of research include
Has the screen fixed or is it only in my case?
I think it's a disruption in the line only because there is too much of connectivity today.
Timalsina has published over 40 articles, book chapters, and reviews, essays on religion, culture, literature, aesthetics, and philosophy. Professor Timalsina also teaches courses on Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain religions, philosophical and literary traditions, and his teaching interests include religion and science as well as yoga, philosophy, and practice. His current areas of research includes theory of mind with a particular focus on the cognitive aspects of recognition, memory, imagination, and emotion.
So shall I start now?
Yeah. Yes. You can start. Thanks
Yes, and
for the
we
brief
also
introduction.
introduced Victory of the Goddess, Myth, Philosophy, and Ritual, which is starting on October 2nd, 2022, 8 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. PDT every Sunday with 12 sessions, which is a course on the Devi Mahatmya with 12 sessions free, and you can register today at vimarshafoundation.org.
Thank you. I would ask Professor Timalsina today to deliver the keynote. Thank you, Morrison.
Thank you, Miss Morrison, Elise, Apratim, Joy, Neeraj Bhai. I you will join us, and all of you for initiating this global mandala. And giving me this opportunity actually for the opening session itself to inaugurate this giant mission of Global Mandala. And what is special about it is this is actually happening in the auspicious occasion of Navratri. And I can only say a few things and we can lead to conversation or discussion actually, because for anybody who is deeply interested on Devi Mahatmya, I will be giving, as Miss Morrison just said, a series of lectures developed in a course format. But I should say beforehand, as a philosopher, as an expert of religion, and as a sadhaka, a practitioner, what inspires me about this book, the philosophy and the culture, that I felt it so compelling that this should come to global attention. A few years back, I learned for the first time, forgive me for my little knowledge on Zoroastrianism, I learned for the first time that the Zoroastrians keep this barley, they put this wheat or barley seeds and as a part of a celebration, and they put the seedlings, they grow the seedlings as a part of a ritual. And why that was intriguing for me is I grew up that the first day of Navratri, we have to put the barley on and get the seedlings going, and the Durga Puja is not even complete without keeping these barley seedlings. And some people put wheat seedlings, and some other people also use other seeds. And a typical ritual celebration from the seeds to germinate the seeds, to bring them to life, to continuity, the way we have been celebrating. And this type of ritual, I'm sure many of you have practiced or at least seen. The antiquity of some of the cultures go so remote that we do not have any written history. We can only guess. There are also several postings, if you guys follow, on the imagery of the Durga, a buffalo slaying goddess, and Nana, and many other forms. And yet again, you get taken aback the antiquity of this goddess worshipping culture. And of course, this could not have come to its flowering stage during our post-agricultural and post-patriarchal societies. So we are again going to the antiquity of the humankind to talk about these goddess words. At one time, everything was divine, and we cut that divine out of the world, tossed him outside, and made him transcendent, made him and made transcendent. So it was neither him nor transcendent before that. It was everything of she or he, all potentials within, manifesting in both or neither, or in animal and bird forms, or just in mountains and rivers. The divine was encountered everywhere, and somehow we chopped off this divine from our daily life and constituted the space for the sacred to be removed from the human. We discovered not the sacred, because everything was sacred then. We discovered the profane, because we could not face ourselves to be sacred. We became profane. And the divine could not be alongside with us because we were profanes. This required a dichotomy, a type of duality between the creator and the created, between the absolute and the manifest, and the visible and the invisible. The visible could not be trusted. The visible became illusory. The visible became Maya. And in contrast, as we can see, if we trace the original Shakta philosophy, we find a continuum, we found a monism, we found a non-dualism, Advaita, not in the Advaita sense that denies the world, the manifestation, the external reality, or juxtaposes the external from the internal, but a continuum, a surge, and euphoria, a joy, as if like what happens, a splash when the tides come, the ocean, the tides kind of splash above the ocean sides. And it's if you boil something, the boiling entity goes up. It was the manifestation was like a surplus. It was the absolute being more than it is, if you may. It's expressing its own inner intrinsic modes. And for that, what could be a better day to celebrate? I'm going to mix up some academic stuff with my own auto-narratives, because I grew up in a very Shakta household. And today, if I were in my childhood home, of course, that is like dream now. If I were in childhood home, my parents would be cutting the fresh rice from the field. We used to have a big field, and the first fresh rice, the smell, I don't know, modern people do not know those things. And we would bring it, celebrate, we would make havana, sacrifice. And then we would have the beaten rice from the fresh, from the field that very day. And then we would have chivda, we call chivda, beaten rice. And this is why this is significant is if you are living in a farming society, farming culture, for you the most important day to celebrate is harvesting. Our harvesting begins with Durga, celebrating Durga. And so the seedlings, keeping new seedlings begins the same day. It's a recycling, a regeneration, just like we are putting new seedlings, we are starting new seedlings. We are harvesting from the old seeds, a completion of the cycle. What happened in the world, we got separated, we got divided, and we left this mother energy behind. We trusted Father little too much because there was a need for the law, a macho man, to beat up, to implement the law, to behead. And the care, the nourishment got left behind. And we found wars. We also discovered major civilizations in this process. But that was a consequence of us again rediscovering our masculinity, our capacity to annihilate others. We live today in a very diverse society. If we see even among just a few of us here, we are almost from 4 different continents, maybe, so many different people from different background, cultural, linguistic, and a reality that cannot simulate itself, multiply itself, that cannot express itself in the diverse form, cannot address our type of world reality today. We need the type of global philosophy where our plurality is intrinsically accepted and where our experience of the sacred is not solely determined in the patriarchal structure. And we need the sacred in the way that our sadhanas align with our real life. What I mean by this is most of us who practice Advaita, I just do not know. I mean, I'm a scholar of Advaita Vedanta, but to practice Advaita is a oxymoronic term for me, because that's a direct knowledge and there is no like practicing, The problem there is we do not have an alignment with what we do we want things in our life to be achieved. We have ambitions, we have desires, and we use the religion as an escape point that, oh, I follow divine, the world is Maya anyway, the world is illusion, it does not matter to me. From holy men to ordinary people like me, this idea of rejection of the world has been such an excuse that, oh no, I am not attached, I do not need anything from the world. And we have not been true to ourselves. Forget about being true to God in front of the divine. When we try deceiving ourselves so much that we are not ready to embrace our emotions, we cannot discuss our arousals and angers because that is so non-religious. You know, that is, you cannot be a religious person and talk about those things. You cannot be a holy man angry, look at him go. So what we created is a paradigm wherein we are robotically expunged of our emotional life. But the reality is the opposite of it. We are emotional beings. We feel, we love, we react according to. And this should not be excluded from our quest for the absolute. And because these things are properly addressed in the Shakta non-dual paradigm, I think that this Shakta paradigm has the potential to bridge what the world requires for the next generation and allow us to shift from the old models that have been tested and that have also failed. In another note, let's first talk about different Hindu pantheons and then Hindu Buddhist and Hindu Jain pantheons and then the global concerns, and I'll stop there. From within different Hindu pantheons, the Vedic world, Vedas and Smritis, they maintain their own hierarchy, the superiority in contrast to Agamas. And in this priestly controlled ritual paradigm, what we have created is a world where Vedas are the true faces of and are true words of God, and other Smriti Purana are not. But if we see that in the case of the way that Navadurga, the Durga's triumph, Durga didn't just win Mahishasura. Durga won over our hearts. This Vedic orthodoxy became dismantled at the very sight of this stunningly beautiful Durga. And the Vedic priests started worshipping her. And of course, we did not have any problem in the beginning, before even the constitution of this Martha orthodoxy. We return in the sense, again there we made a full circle. We return back to some extent to the original ethos, wherein the goddess was already integral to our spiritual life. Now, the text is Purana. The Devi Mahatmya itself is a part of Markandeya Purana. Yeah. But we also know that traditionally speaking, not even just every verse, even the Uvaja, he said and she said, even those small sentences are considered mantras. In the Hindu tradition, to consider something mantra is to give status of Shruti, the Vedas. So for the Shakta world, Devi Mahatmya has the same status as the Vedas. Now, speaking between the traditions, the goddess sitting behind me is Guhya Kali. She's also called Kala Sankarshini. She was worshipped in ancient time as Chandakapali in the, if you read Brahma Yamala or Jayadratha Yamala. And there are many manuals of her that breeze, that integrate the chroma system, and all the chroma kalis are different faces of hers. So nothing is lost in the tradition. It's very much alive. With this, but more importantly, she is also called Nairatmya Yogini. And in Nepal, in the Guhya Kali temple, Buddhist Vajracharya priests go and worship her in the form of Nairatmya Yogini as a Buddhist Vajrayana deity. And Hindu priests wholeheartedly allow to continue this worship, not considered subversion or anything. And it's not some modern days fantasy of some interreligious faith worship going on, okay, because most of us start imagining that way. It is before these religions were even divided, just like two children divide their property and they say, this is my house, my land, this is my house, my land. Mother says, both houses are mine. So this is the case with the Vajrayana and Tantric Hinduism, because the goddess is the mother, and people might say this is the Hindu world, this is the Buddhist world, but the goddess predates these identities. And if you think of the Jainas, and they also have Padmavati Kalpa and many other kalpas. The primary is Padmavati in the form of Mahalakshmi. Integration of Mahalakshmi within the Jaina pantheon. And one more thing, that Mahasaraswati, the goddess in Nepal, we also have a Nila Saraswati form, and in many people who have studied Tantra do know that after the sadhana of Ugratara, you are led to do the sadhana of Nila Saraswati. So various Tara forms are integral to Saraswati, Mahasaraswati, and that culminates in the tantric practices with the Nila Saraswati. So yet again, in her Saraswati form, we find the integration of all Taras, and as you know, Buddhist tantric practices have so much of centrality, primacy on Tara with their practices. Now I have addressed Mahakali in the Kali form, not only that she integrates Vedas and Tantras, she integrates Buddhist Nairatmya Yogini and Guhya Kali. In Mahalakshmi form, she integrates Hindus and Jains. In Mahasaraswati form, yet again, she integrates Hindu and Buddhist tantric practices. And there is only one text to address all three divinities, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati, in 3 sections of the book, Devi Mahatmya. This is a book of a cultural continuity, oneness of the Hindus, Buddhists, and Jains. Therefore, Navratri didn't divide us. In Nepal, many indigenous tribes do celebrate Navratri and worship Durga. They trace back before this Vedic civilization even started, and they have their own manuals, their own oral traditions, oral histories in the ways they have been worshipping the goddess. So this, in this accord, it has become a unifying figure. The goddess has become a unifying figure for different tribal communities and different faith groups in the subcontinent. This is why if you read the last word, this is why if you read the Devi Mahatmya, the second chapter of the Devi Mahatmya begins with the gods being tormented by the mighty demon Mahisha, and all gods trying to defeat, all are defeated, powerless, and ultimately they release their energy. Every single god releases his energy, and that whole energy distilled becomes a mass, a single flame, a singularity, a point of singularity where all energies merge. And that is where Durga manifests. That is that energy. Consolidated mass is Durga, a metaphor for us to say that within Durga we find unity of all Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Indra, and Yama, Varuna, and Kubera, Prajapati, and every single other god. The same way within Durga we find unity of all different tribes, and within Durga we can rediscover spirituality for the next generation of the world, because our earlier models cannot address the need for a new generation, and that is why people are moving away from faith. In America, I was reading, I don't know how much to rely on these surveys, but in the past 5 years alone, they say that about 8% of the people who were committed to be Christian have left the churches, and they are now non-committal to any faith. And this is a trend that is ongoing for the last 25 or 30 years. So because the old ideas have not been able to address the need of the humankind today, and I assume we deserve to give an alternative perspective. The world deserves to see the ideas that our ancestors conserved, not to claim any authority over these things, because if the Shakta philosophy has something new to offer to humankind, it is the wealth of the humanity and not any particular nation, state, or tribe, or any group, Brahmins or otherwise. It is for everybody. And I believe that our global mandala will be able to help us propagate these new ideas for shaping new world, to create a new mandala of the humankind to coexist in peace and harmony. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I would probably now want people to interact, but just starting with from where you left. I think you started with barley and rice, and I feel that when we talk about the Shakta philosophy as a point of singularity and uniting all people from different tribes and religions put together in Mother Goddess Durga, we find this thing of harvesting very interesting, because that's a kind of a recycling of a new time, and it's also associated in other civilizations, like in Egyptian civilization, in Roman civilization. We talked about Nilatara, we talked about Saraswati. We also find the same thing in La Primavera in Roman civilization, the spring when Venus comes from the taking birth from the sea. The same concept we have over here in India in the Puranas, where we have the Samudra Manthan from that Lakshmi comes. So I think is it true that when we are talking about Devi Durga as a point of singularity, we have to talk about ecological awareness as well? Because many people, those who live in urban societies like us, have lost touch with the pristine, bucolic life, the agrarian life, and everything is so, technologically motivated. We have lost the touch of grass and sands and trees and everything and there was a period of time everything was considered to be the divine, and then we dissociated ourselves from the divine. We try to now manipulate nature. So if mother nature represents Durga represents mother nature, then we have to be reliant on mother nature, and then the awareness of ecology comes in, because these small rituals are directly connected with harvesting, with prosperity, and with coming of a new time. And it is across all civilizations. I find that these um, after Durga Puja, there is Devi Visarjan as well. So this birth of the gods and dying of the gods, this has been a part of the cycle in many different civilizations. People consider them to be myths, but they are as true as in the was in Roman civilization or in Greek civilization. We find the same mother goddess. If we do an anthropological study, also we will find the same mother goddess appearing in different forms with different names. It's just uh, somewhere it is Demeter, or somewhere it is Cybele, but it is the same mother goddess appearing in different forms. So is ecology also a part of it? And as you explained that we have lost touch with that form. So it is already there with us. The solutions are there with us.
Thank you for your comment. Yeah, I appreciate it. Nowadays, we had a need. We had depravity, and modern science and technology has changed a lot. And now what we thought is the new ruler of the world, technology, can solve everything that humanity requires. This is again our fantasy. Just like old magic was, we relied too much. We thought everything, all our problems can be solved by old magic. And then we needed something more tangible. And we came to modern technology. And yesterday I was telling to my student, I have a very small backyard garden, and I was working there talking with him. And then I said, if I could just make my rule, I would not teach anybody who does not participate in farming. And I'm not even joking about it. And I got that insight after a number of encounters from our tech, advanced people. They make 4 times more of what I earn, okay? And these people come to my house sometimes to visit. And one time, one person just looks at the garden, sees 20 different fruit trees, and then within amazement, I've seen all the fruit trees, but I have never seen a tree of carrot. And I couldn't even believe what he's asking. Is he serious? So I asked him to repeat the question. I wanted to be sure that this guy, a engineer in one major corporation, could really be asking that thing. And it was true, to shame. Another time I had little pumpkin vines growing, and another engineer, not the same engineer, another major engineer came. And then what is this vine? Got very excited, very curious. I said, these are the pumpkins. And the pumpkins grow here. And he says, then you dig them out? No, we do not have to dig them out because they grow outside. To me, this is blasphemy. There is no blasphemy to me in not believing in any God, but to not know what goes into our system, to have that level of ignorance and to feel so successful. Given the opportunity, these very people start teaching me what the Vedas are, Tantras are, because they have some success in some areas, and then the humanities overall is a look down upon discipline anyway, and they enjoy immediately being gurus. How did we come to this situation? Don't you think this is a symptom of some type of disease that is crippling our civilization? Why do we have to be so separated from our own life, living nature? And thank you for bringing ecological concern. I had one essay long ago, The Body of the Goddess, and ecological concerns from Durga myth. Anybody can visit Bimarsa website and download the paper for reading. Okay, let's move to any other concern, comments, questions.
Anyone wants to make a comment, please unmute yourself. Pratim, you want to ask something? Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, Hanji Pranam.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let her ask first.
I just find this conversation very, very interesting and close to my heart uh, about this whole feminine principle of nature and how it just impacts everything and our entire, sense of being in this world. So great topic and. Well, I think there is a mother in Buddhism. I read, I could be wrong, that there is a mother in everybody. There is a mother, whether it's a man, a child, or a woman, a young girl. There is a mother in every sentient being, you know. And I think that mother principle is what is so much needed today in our world where we are just torn apart, fragmented, and completely in a very downward, destructive mode of existence. So, definitely, ecology is very important, and our inner soul is also, I think, important because what's inside is manifested outside. So if our own being is torn apart or fragmented or bipolar in the, I mean, that's a technical word, but we become bipolar actually. I feel even psychologically as a collective conscious, our conscious self is torn, and that's where I think the whole problem goes much deeper than just the environment, because environment is really the manifestation of what's the inner turmoil that we are facing as a humanity as a whole. Thank you. Just a thought.
Oh, Pratim, you want to ask something?
Yeah. So again, it is always a pleasure to listen to Professor Timalsina. Was thinking about the symbolic aspect of in this philosophy. Like we have various goddesses in the Shakta philosophy and in other dualistic philosophies as well. Now, I have heard in some lectures that they have a philosophical point Like in case of goddess Kali, we call her Kali because we call time as Kala, which means black, because we cannot see time. So since because we cannot see that supreme reality, we call her as Kali. And all the form of Kali that we imagine or we see has philosophical basis, like her four hands, they represent something else, and she is standing on Shiva, which means the Shiva is the passive Brahman, and goddess Kali is the active nature, projection of the active nature, Maya, in the viewpoint of the Advaita. But my question is that in all the cases, be it Advaita or in case of Advaita or Vishishta Advaita, the goddesses or the devas that we see, they have a kind of form. So is this form, is this symbol of the form, do they just flash in the mind of the rishis or the sadhakas, or do they have a philosophical, or I mean, do they imagine the form to explain a certain philosophical fact? So are these forms real? I mean, are these forms really they see in front of them in their minds, or are they are just constructs to explain a deeper philosophical understanding? So that is my question to Professor Timalsna, sir.
This is a tough question, Apratim. This is early morning for me. Be merciful. Anyway, this is both actually. When great rishis go to deep states of meditation, in the state of Pashyanti, when the form and the sound collide, the sound starts appearing as form. That is where Vats becomes Artha, Artha becomes Vats. There is no distinction between the form and the speech, the manifest world and the phonemes. And when meditation goes to that depth, spontaneously forms start coagulating. That is also the case in dreaming. Even in dreaming, when we go to that deep state and our thoughts dissolve, and then the language starts taking shape, imagery starts appearing. The only problem with the dream is then we do not have autonomy over the dream objects, and we become the victim of our own dreams, fantasies. We fall for it. In visualization, because of the purity of the mind, when rishis go to the deep sleep mode type state called samadhi, that is where they go into pashyanti. This state itself is called self-seeing. In the medical term, it will be synesthesia. So I know synesthesia is some kind of medical condition today. Some people have it, where they hear the sound and they see the form instead of hearing the sound. They jumble together, sound and form. But if this is because of some neural disruption, the meditative state I'm talking about is not due to neural disruption, but actually going deeper to before the division of the tasks for different neural activities, like for checking, interpreting shape, interpreting color, interpreting sound, when the programming beneath the programming happens. That is number one. But then when the yogi comes out of this meditative state, mostly those forms dissolve and they are forgotten. But some of them are captured depending on the intensity. For that we call Purascharana. That is why I put my students who come to practice do Purascharana, and then I'll teach you anything more. And they get scared and run away. What a relief. But the idea is, it is a waste of time to talk about these things and not try to bring them to personal experience. But then when one has repeated it to so many times, then the forms become stable. And then when you come out of meditative states, those forms become stable and you can remember. But then there is also a cognitive, of course, it's also a cognitive process, but this is beyond our conscious, subjectively manipulated, controlled processes. But then there are other conscious cognitive processes wherein we recognize one form, we encounter another form, and then we blend those two seed mantras. And we see what happens when you keep repeating by blending these two different phonemes. And then we get the jumbled imagery. It is when you blend so many phonemes and then the complex imagery like the one behind me comes. For plain images, you have less phonemes, less shorter mantras. And so there is on one hand, the first imagery are coming directly from meditative states. And the second, when different images come by different phonemes, these different phonemes are integrated by the practitioners. Different bija or different kutas are recited. Kuta is like even more complex. Like when you have 7, 9, 12 phonemes jumbled together, we call them kuta. When so many phonemes jumble together, and then you go deep down to meditation and you encounter that. Sometimes you see something else too. Then you have to train your mind again. Then for the first encounter is difficult which one to rely, and then to rely on that you go and verify. Every time you go and meditation, the same imagery arises, that is a valid image. And multiple people start reporting the rise of the same image, that is again intersubjectively verified, but not external object, it's a mental imagery.
Yeah.
But then when these fake imagery fantasies come and go, they do not stick, like you do not go to same dream time again, so dream lines change like that. Even in meditative states, whatever some imagery come, then dissolve, and they are not to be trusted. So you have to seek for retaining the same image. Image visualization used to be a big part of tantric sadhana. What happened is we just thought that we need to get rid of these images to be civilized, because people who do not worship images, they convinced many of us that maybe we are backward by accepting images. Actually, one big Swami came to my house several years ago, and he was literally offended seeing the Kali image in my house. And I have invited many Christian priests, and at least nobody has said they were offended or anything. So we have created within the Hindu world a type of delusion that somehow recognizing goddesses, recognizing imagery, recognizing Kali in particular, compromises us. But to tell you the truth, I have taught in America for more than 2 decades. I haven't met a single student who is not intrigued or curious to learn more about Kali. So she has this magnetic power. People want, who is this woman? Why does she look crazy? And then the more we start telling them, it at least shocks them. And then you can just need to be there to explain what the philosophy is behind. And rather than going into this is what it is, and you can't ask anything about it, and then that is a wrong attitude. We have to explain it to them, and for that we need to do some reading. Thank you, Apratim.
Thank you, sir. This is wonderful.
One more quick question, Morrison. Do you want to interact? One more quick question.
Yes, I have been very happy to be part of this conversation and hear this wonderful exposition on the Devi Mahatmya. And I myself, being a personal sadhaka of the goddess, and being having been initiated in the Shakti mantra myself, and I do myself do the practice of the Bija mantra, and I feel it's the most powerful thing ever. And I wanted to just know one thing is that when you said that, like, to see forms through certain changes in the neural networks that happens when one goes into deeper levels of meditation, is this the Pashyanti Vak through which the yogis see forms or sounds?
Yes, correct. That is why when, like yet another dispelling another superstition, we have been told you are not supposed to speak the mantras out loud. Nobody should hear. I'm sure you have heard. The modern generation doesn't even know that though.
Yes.
But at least the old generation knew that. But that was also wrong information. The mantras are not uttered does mean that nobody should hear. Mantras are mentally visualize so that you can go to the deep Pashyanti level. So that was the purpose. It is not that if somebody can hear it and it will be trouble, it was not like that. The idea was that you are supposed to bring those mantras deep within yourself. And that is why it is called Pashyanti, to see, because it is the language, it is the speech. But the speech, you do not see the speech. You hear the speech, right? But this is the only speech that you see, not hear. This is the speech that is called seen. So that is where the form, the sound transforms. Sound literally becomes form.
Cool.
Thank you.
And just to end it, I just wanted to ask Professor Timalsina, um, since we were initiated by the present Shankaracharya and Chalananda Saraswati at Govardhan Mott, while explaining mantras, he was saying that mantras are more powerful than even atom bombs. So one has to be very careful in chanting the mantras in the proper way. So it's that a lot of thing is packed in the mantras. It seems it didn't go much in detail, but is the mantras, the Ishta mantras or the Bija mantras, um, that the intensity of things packed, the energy of the intense things packed in the mantras are enormous, it seems, as if it could manifest the whole universe of these forms in front of us. Is that like
No,
that?
I mean, you should not take that statement literally,
Yeah.
because the the force in the atom bomb is a physical force.
Hmm.
The force in mantra is a mental force.
Subtle boats.
I'm not saying that there is no connection or continuity between the mental and the physical, but what it means is that the type of things that physical energy can do is made possible even by the mental energy. Like, why the mind triumphs over matter is, yes, if you drop on atom bomb, all the people having all these conversations will cease to exist. But that thing came because of the mind, so in the mind of a genius, the power to discover the hidden nature of the structure of the atoms and the particles. So in that sense, I would say that the force of the mind should not be undermined.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, we had a wonderful session today, and we'll be putting this through. So we will send links to everyone. And thanks for everyone who has participated. Thanks to Yuli especially. He is traveling and he's participated from Rome. Rome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Namaskar,
And
everybody.
yes, yes. And we will see very soon.
Very soon.
Take care.